Okay. Good evening, everybody. We are so glad to have you here with us for another special evening for the CNY Rice Center. This is our annual fundraiser event for our own center. And normally we do this event in person, face to face in our center. That we will be right now serving a beautiful Turkish meal, and we will be sitting down and having a nice friendly conversations and talking about our stories. And that is what we expected this year, that we thought after the vaccination and changes, we will be able to get together. But unfortunately, recently the numbers of the patients with the COVID has been rising, and we didn't want to risk anybody's health for this event. So tonight we are getting for another virtual event, and we are really excited with our guest speakers tonight that we decided to want to have the theme and the focus for tonight is the incoming Afghani refugee families, especially coming to Syracuse. Last year, we did this event that we asked for people to support our CNY Rice Center with their donations. That is how we operate in the south side of the city. And we also decided to share part of our raised funds with the refugee families in Greece. You might remember the refugee crisis there, and thousands of people with their babies in their arms trying to go through the agency on the boats. A number of Turkish people were actually on those boats, and we wanted to kind of support them. So we gave some of our funding to those families. And then this year, when we were planning for the annual fundraiser dinner, we had the same kind of a request from our members, and they said, our Afghani brothers and sisters are coming, we gotta do something for them. And we were glad that the government were able to start the program for it. And with the leadership of the Interfaith Works, we now know there's gonna be a group of families coming to our city, and we want to do kind of our part to be on the side of the support and make their job easier. And we are so glad tonight that we have special guests. So I'd like to initially just tell them welcome. So we have our president of the Interfaith Works, Beth Broadway, with us tonight. Hello, Beth. Welcome. I think you are muted.
Oh, yes. Hello, everyone, and hello, Tim.
So nice to see you over here. We are, again, admire your leadership in the community, that everything you do to help all these different families. So appreciate for being us tonight.
I feel the same way about you.
Thank you. And we also have our special guest speaker tonight that's also was part of the Interfaith Works community, and he is still a part of our community as a leader. So we have our guest speaker, Abdul Sabur Sakizadeh. Welcome, Abdul Sabur.
Good to be with all of you. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you with us tonight, and you have so much experience, wisdom, and stories to tell with us that we are looking forward to hear from you. We also have some other staff members from the Interfaith Works. We have Daryl Files, Volunteer Services Director. Hello, Daryl, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. Hello, everybody.
So nice to see you again. You were on our OCC campus a couple of weeks ago doing the whole event. Now it is our turn to host you virtually. And we also have Marwa with us. How are you, Marwa?
Hello, thank you. Thank you so much for having us today.
Absolutely. We have, again, so much to talk to you about your services for the refugee families within Interfaith Works. So we are looking forward to hear your stories and perspective also. And finally, we have Genevieve from Interfaith Works also. Hello, Genevieve.
Hi, thank you so much for having me tonight.
Welcome. So glad to have you with us tonight. So as I mentioned, we are going to be starting with a quick little video of the CNY Rice Center. Even though everything was virtual and it was a huge challenge for our community, we still didn't stop for our activities, that we went continued, sometimes virtually, sometimes with a social distancing on the outside in a park area or something like that. So we're still busy doing something. So we'd like to share our activities with everybody, that we believe that CNY Rice Center is doing definitely a needed job for our society, bringing new ideas and trying to build bridges between communities. So if you wouldn't mind, hopefully we'll have no technical problems, but I'll do my best to share our video that our volunteers have prepared. and then we'll talk about the Rice Center a little bit more before we go to our guest speakers. So please give me 1 second. So that was a little summary of our activities we have done throughout the year from 2020 to 2021. As everybody can imagine that it was such a big shock for everybody to deal with the COVID-19 challenges because as you know from our motto, we say we rise by lifting others, that we are a service-oriented organization, that we would like to serve the youth, we would like to serve the interfaith community, we would like to serve our neighborhood. But when it becomes to COVID, we get all limited, unfortunately, that we cannot make that connection with the others. But we still, as I said, put efforts together that we did a Valley Ties community picnic in the south side, that we gathered our neighbors, and we have a wonderful triangle in the south side of the city with the Zen Center, Unity Church, and the CNY Rice Center. That many of our members said they were just kind of missing this kind of a connection with people outside with the picnic like that. We had a great time together, and we also did quite much effort to be able to make impact with other communities with some of our donations. That we had more than 100 boxes of sanitary wipes that we passed out to different communities in the middle of the pandemic that they could use, like with the rescue mission. And that while they were helping the homeless members of our community, we gave them sanitizing wipes that they passed them out to those families. We also have the Northside Learning Center that they had direct contact with the refugee families. So we gave them some food items and some, again, sanitizing items and things like that. We did some prayer events because we all believe the power of the prayers. That recently there has been a forest fire in the middle of the summer in many countries, and especially Turkey was really struck hard by the wildfires. And we gathered together a lot of different religious leaders in this area that we did prayers together with our neighbor leaders. And then we did also the Ramadan events virtually. We invited our neighbors and friends as a Ramadan dinner to our backyards and had dinner with them. So we still were trying to make connections like that. And we are so grateful for our volunteers and members that they made this happen. At the same time, this is a fundraiser event that we only operate with the support with our volunteers and members and who would like to make donations to us. We recently, you might remember, purchased a building in the south side of the city, and it does have some, operational costs that we are still trying to pay a mortgage for the building. That the COVID was a big impact for our funding also, unfortunately. So we are definitely looking forward to continue support from our community members. At the same time, we are still continuing our weekend tutoring programs for our children. That it was virtual for a while. Now we are kind of doing with a social distancing. That our numbers are quite high actually. That even though we are kind of a small organization, we have serving more than 40 to 50 children on a weekly basis. With our volunteers are becoming their teachers, and they do filters with them. They take them to the community, colleges, campuses, different places like that. And they follow different education programs with them. So we have a lot of, as I said, ideas, and we like to help more for the community. Another special program we were involved with this year was the Get the Lead Out pop-up campaign in the South Side, because we all know the devastating impact of the lead paint for the little children, especially in the South Side, because a number of our houses are old and the paints are before 1970s. And those children are getting impacted by the lead paints in the house, and it's impacting their health and brain development. So we were part of the programming of a Get Let Out party event down south, and we informed the parents. We passed them the ways of getting rid of the paint from their houses. So we're still trying to reach out. So before we go to our kind of a next guest over here, I would like to share our link for our organization. So let me quickly share that with everybody. That hopefully everybody can see this, that if you can go to our website, it is rightcenter.org/donate. On this website, you will be able to get two kinds of donation links available there. One link will be helping directly to our center that you can make donations, and that can be a part of your pledge for our community center here. And at the same time, we also have link there for the GoFundMe page that we developed for the Afghan refugee families. And let me share that page with you also, so you can get the idea. So if you go to the this link here, rightcenter.org/donate, you will have the link here that will take you to our GoFundMe page for the Afghan families. So far, we recently started this page and we have about $336 raised, and our goal is to reach $10,000 if we can. So it is all about our, depending on the support we get from our community members. And this check of the fundraiser amount that we do will go directly to the Interfaith Works and helping with their program for the settlement of the refugee families. And we will be asking our members and people who are watching this video to go to our page and make this donation to help the families over there. Again, at the same time on our page, you can go down and make a donation directly to our center also to be able to help us to do further service for this community and for the society through our CMRI center there. So that was my little spiel about our center and our ideas, what we want to do with our center. But now I would like to have our initial group of guest speakers from the Interfaith Works, because they are the ones on the field day by day making sure this support is there for the refugee families. So as I mentioned earlier, we have the president of Interfaith works there, Beth Broadway with us, and she also has her team with her to explain how many families will be coming and how we can help them, what kind of programs they have available, and we would like to give that support for them tonight, so we can be a welcoming city for these refugee families. So I would like to welcome Beth Broadway to take the stage and explain this whole program to our guests here tonight.
Well, thank you so much, President Tim Saka, and also to the CNY Rise leadership for offering this time to talk about the Afghan situation. Our presentation tonight, as you said, will be with me and with Marwa Al-Baidi. Marwa is and Genevieve Marshall are our new directors of the Center for New Americans. Marwa oversees the resettlement process for all refugees coming in, and she's overseeing the resettlement process for the Afghan refugees that are coming. And Genevieve Marshall oversees the health integration and immigration side of the Center for New Americans. And she has programs set up that will help refugees for up to 5 years beyond their arrival in the city. So we're going to leave some time at the end for a kind of a robust Q&A if you want to do that. But I took the liberty of putting together some of the most poignant photos just so we can humanize this crisis and remember the people that are involved in this. And so with your permission, I'm going to go ahead and share some slides while I talk. And let me get that up right now. So this is Interfaith Works, as Tim said, and here are the two women who are presenting with me, Marwa and Genevieve, who are directing two different aspects of our refugee resettlement work. The next slide, you're seeing the Afghan pullout. You know, I just wanted to kind of put a context on this. We all watched this US withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan with a mix of emotions. An end to war, or at least US military involvement in another country, often brings relief. The troops are coming home, families will be reunited, and precious resources that were spent on war activities can be redirected to pressing human needs here at home. But, and this is one of the other pullout pictures, so it's quite dramatic. But the withdrawal of the troops from Vietnam, Iraq, and now Afghanistan leaves behind what I consider to be a kind of a wreckage that always accompanies war. People climb the walls of embassies that will soon be empty of people to help them. People hide until safe transport can be found. And we know from our photos that we saw people cling to the side of an ascending airplane in a desperate, fear-driven last gasp to get out. Now, some of the people that I'm talking about worked for the US military. You're going to hear from Sabur, who was one of those people. They worked as translators, or they procured food, supplies. Others worked for the US media, broadcasting messages that now run contrary to the new government. And still others are the children and the wives and the brothers and the mothers of those who aided and abetted our efforts in Afghanistan. Another whole group of people really hoped for political change that the American presence promised. And they sent their daughters to school, or they spoke out for civil liberties, other thing, they made videos. All these people are left in peril, having risked everything and now have lost with the pullout of the government's troops, our government's troops. So our hearts break for the people left behind. But people are always left behind in war. It's a measure of our humanity that we are outraged, that we're sad, that we're upset about all this visible human suffering. As it is now well known, when the US military pulled out of Afghanistan in mid-August, the humanitarian crisis was left behind. And likely most of you saw the kinds of pictures that I've been showing at the Kabul airport, desperate to get on any plane that would take them. Many did not make it, and theirs will be an unfolding story that will have to be told by their children and their grandchildren who did. The situation for people who did get to the US is mixed. This is an air transport with so many people, as you can see. It's mixed, it's confusing, and it's different depending on the kind of documents they were able to procure before they took off. So here's just some basic facts about what we're facing as a nation. There are currently, as I understand it, 53,000 roughly Afghans at 9 different military bases across the US. The majority of these people will be settled in Virginia, in Texas, in California, and in Washington State, because they will be able to continue to work with the US military there. Or there is a large Afghan community where they are. But about 20% of the people, or about 11,000 people, will be settled in places like Syracuse. And Interfaith Works has agreed to settle 48 of those people, in some 15 families total, in the next month or so. More will likely come later, but this is our agreement right now, is that we will settle 48. And this will be in addition to the 700 refugees coming from all across the globe that we agreed to settle in 2022. We received our first family unit, a young brother and sister, last Friday. Here's a picture of them. Mara was going to share a little bit more about this family in just a minute. The outpouring of support that we have had coming from the community is tremendous. Many of you may not know that County Executive Ryan McMahon and Mayor Ben Walsh and the county legislature and the Common Council wrote to President Biden pledging safe haven for Afghan refugees. So have our state senators and assembly people. And many individuals have offered tremendous sacrifices, like opening up their homes, making sure that a guest room and a bathroom are available to a family. One of our churches, the Presbytery of Cayuga, Syracuse, has dedicated funds to support Afghani women who might be coming without their children or without their husbands. People have pledged food, they've pledged jobs, they've pledged furniture. So we've had to ask ourselves, how many people can this community serve? We have to do this every year as a resettlement agency, and we have asked this question of ourselves over many wars, and again now since the withdrawal started. We have to assess the capacity of our city and our county to provide housing, medical care, schooling, jobs, cultural orientation, and in the midst of a pandemic, we have to assure safety protocols, including quarantine and vaccinations for all those who come. We understand that if the people are coming as SIVs, in other words, with special immigrant visas, like what Sabur came with, this will entitle them to certain kinds of supports. But asylees, unless there has been a change, will not. For asylees, we're going to need lawyers. If you're a lawyer, we want to hear from you. They're going to have to do a court case in order to get their documents to be in the country. It's a long lift, and the list is long, and it's heavy. But with your help, we can do everything in our power to help as many people as we can. And we're doing this right alongside with our resettlement partner, Catholic Charities. So here's just a photo of some of the supports that our community has come forward with. Handmade quilts. We want to have a bright and beautiful spot in people's apartments. So Afghans are coming with very different status. Some of them are coming with SIV, which is the best way to come, because then you get all of the benefits of the refugee program. But all refugees come with the basic needs. Our new brother and sister came with one small carry-on bag between them, about this big. So now they're heading into the Syracuse winter, and this is what they had. So we have to provide housing for them, food for them, medical care, working papers, because they don't have working papers if they came as an asylee, or in this new program, the Afghan Placement Assistance. And so APA is the new designation for this group of people. That's their legal status. And they may want to be introduced to the area mosques if they are Muslim or another faith community, so that they have the sustenance to get them through this. The families coming to Syracuse will mostly be through the newly created Afghan Placement and Assistance Program, which started on September 1. It consists of moving many Afghan families that are currently at U.S. military bases into refugee resettlement organizations and cities. We've spent the last weeks securing homes and apartments for people, selecting furnishings from the warehouse, and getting donations from people who have furniture when we don't have enough. We've been finding food. We've been meeting with donors and elected officials, as well as school leaders who are going to be providing schooling for the children, and getting lots of household goods in place for people, while also hiring an Afghan case manager to support and work alongside our existing staff. These are some pictures from the refugee camps that are right now. This one and the one before are at Fort Lee, which is just south of Richmond, Virginia. You can see that people are housed in these plastic tents made up of the same material that, like, you would go to the duck race or you would go to a wedding and see these kinds of plastic tents where people are. And so they're going to have to be moved out fairly quickly because it's not going to be warm enough in another month in Southern Virginia in order for people to live comfortably in this kind of situation. We are going to have to help families find initial clothing, their furniture, their dishes, their sheets, a clock, rugs for the wall. And the staff will also find and set up the initial housing arrangement for every family that comes. They will get a case manager and an employment specialist for the first 90 days who will help with the medical screenings, establish a doctor, make sure that they've got vaccinations, and if they don't, get them for them. The cultural orientation program. They're also going to have a big lift to get the right government documents so that they can go to work, so that they can be registered and get a social security card and employment assistance. The case managers that Marwa supervises help the family get the children registered for school and get the parents registered for English classes. The employment staff will work with each adult to complete that process of securing what's called an employment authorization card, and identify their skills, build a resume, help them arrange for job interviews, find employers who want to interview them. And we will also help them get connected to pro bono lawyers who can work for free to adjudicate their immigration status and to secure asylee status and get them their green cards. One of the things that is the biggest challenge, and until 2:17 this afternoon, we have been in a bit of a panic, because up until 2 o'clock this afternoon, we did not have notification that the US government, and then passing it through to our state and county, was going to provide anything other than a one-time $1,225 payment. And so we did not have medical services, we did not have social services, we did not have housing services, and very importantly, we only had food for children and pregnant women, but not for other women and other male adults. And so we've been scrambling to put together so much in the last 4 weeks because we didn't know that this was going to come. But what happened at 2 o'clock this afternoon, we got the notice that the Senate has voted to make sure that these supports, which usually go to refugees and SIVs and were denied up until 2 o'clock today to all other parolees, that they passed the Senate side of the allocation, so that we will be able to provide these basic housing, basic medical, and basic food supplies to all of the APA Afghans, which is really good news for everybody. Interfaith Works alone was looking at raising $290,000 to provide 1 year of existence for these families that we were getting in this next month or so. So you can imagine how relieved we are that number is going to come down significantly. So 290,000 is not the number anymore. We're going to recalculate that. But what we also know is that housing they'll get a housing allowance of $526, including their cash allowance. You can't rent an apartment in Syracuse for $526. It's just not possible anymore. And so we're going to be backfilling this. We're going to have funding to help the folks, because many of them don't yet have their working papers, or they don't have English. So this is our situation right now. And one day, I think the human race is going to decide that war is never the answer, that peace can only be found through the proliferation of peace with justice, and that human suffering, when it is met with compassion, is the only path. From the bottom of our hearts, if you do decide to donate, we cannot thank you enough. I promise you it will be put 100% to this great humanitarian effort. And this is a photograph of our friends out in Cazenovia who have taken over this house and are rehabbing it so that 2 refugee families next year, it's not ready yet, but next year will be able to be here. This is Dave Berg and the Holmeses, Carolyn and Dave Holmes, who are part of Cazenovia Welcomes Refugees. And we will have a beautiful home for 2 more refugee families sometime next year. At this point, I want to turn it over to Marwa to say a little bit more about our new brother and sister who just arrived, and then what the weeks ahead are looking like. And then we're going to just open it up to questions for Genevieve and you know, kind of what is really needed at this moment. And I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to Marwa.
Thank you, Beth. So yeah, so we finally received our first Afghan case last Friday with a very short notice from our national office, which is less than 24 hours. And I would like to share, when we received the bio of this case, it contains very sketch information. To a point we were unable to know the relationship between these siblings. And we were wondering if they are a couple, if they are a brother and sister. So we didn't even know the gender, and we had to go back to our case manager from Afghanistan, and he helped us to figure, based on the names, what are the gender of these 2 siblings. So we planned and we were ready for both situations and prepared a house that has a double bed and an extra single bed in case they are siblings. And with very short notice, the team here in Interfaith Works, the resettlement side, has put all the energy to prepare the basic need for this case upon arrival. So the welcoming moments, we did a group welcoming, and many staff has showed up in the airport. And the welcoming moment was very emotional to all of us, as we have been planning and putting all of the pieces together for weeks to start receiving these cases. And the moment that the siblings arrived, we learned from them that they left their parents in Afghanistan, which they are very worried about. And they also left a family member in the military base who's still in the process and has not, they haven't get an approval for a travel to the final destination yet. So the overwhelming experience for these siblings was very intense to them to start here in Syracuse. So I would like also to share a story for this sibling, and take it to the point when Beth talked about all the basic need for these donation, which is really going to be much needed. So when these siblings arrived, as Beth mentioned, they came with very short luggage. It's very small. And the next day when we talked to them, when we gave them orientation and we talked about their benefits and what they are eligible to, then the caseworker after took them to Burlington coat factory store to get them some basic need clothing, because they come with very little short few of things. So when they were going through the clothing and they were taking a look at the prices, they refused. They say, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want you to get us expensive things. And we are ready to take donations. We are ready we are willing to go to places where they can give us donation or with lesser price. And we know that there is much more needed in our long journey, and we don't want to do that for now. So it's a very very special moments, because like this is very clear that they recognize the fact that they are not the only people that in need for support, and they are aware of the resources available for them, and they are aware that they want to share these resources not for them, but for also for the coming people, and they can share it equally for the other coming people. So would you like to add more, Genevieve, about the next steps?
Sure. Thanks, Marwa and Beth. Yeah, I would just say, kind of as both Marwa and Beth highlighted, that there's going to continue to be an overwhelming need for support for Afghan families and Afghan parolees specifically, not just in the coming months, but really even in the coming year plus years, in terms of the reunifications that are going to need to take place. There's still a lot of people in the community that have family members back in Afghanistan that they're trying to figure out how to get safely here. There's going to need to be socialization elements in terms of meeting their social needs to get into connected into the community, besides just basic needs to make sure that they're able to connect with other people that understand their culture and understand language and start their new lives here in Syracuse. And that we definitely are aware of that and working very closely with community partners. Daryl Files and Sarah Hewitt at our agency, who work in the community engagement spaces, have been very active with, we've had a tremendous outpouring of support from the local community, wanting to know how they can do anything, whether it's volunteering, whether it's serving as a community sponsor for a family, supplying mattresses, supplying televisions, serving as one-on-one volunteers to help people learn the public transportation system, whatever that is. So we've been working closely with the community to try to get people plugged into the right places, and that we can build connections between the existing community and all of the incoming Afghans. So I would just add that those opportunities are also available, and they're going to be much needed, because we're in this for the long haul, and this is going to be a long journey, and we're really committed, as is the community, to supporting these families.
Thank you so much, Genevieve, for a wonderful kind of insight about the long-term plan. And Beth, is there anything else you'd like to add also after the wonderful stories that you have shared, that I believe that you said Syracuse community stepped up so much to really make a big difference for those families. And we are still looking forward for their support along the way also.
Yeah, and your community, you know, the Turkish community and the CNY Rise community has always been hugely supportive. And so we just want to thank you for that. We want to thank you for the generosity that you have demonstrated from the moment you immigrated to Syracuse. It's been tremendous to be a partner with you. As I said, the biggest challenges we face as an agency and for these families is a financial challenge. We do have a warehouse full of things that we're drawing from, but we're going to need to help them with basic needs around, you know, especially their housing. And we're not sure yet whether they're going to have Medicaid. So if they don't, it's going to cost every person $45 a month to be every adult to be on the plan. And so we're going to need to pay for that and help them with that, you know, for the next year, at least, until they're in a job where they have health benefits. So, you know, you can see the challenges that we're up against. So anything that anybody can do, I promise you it'll be used for this great humanitarian effort. And we thank you so much for caring in all you do in the community.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And anytime I see those families coming into Syracuse, I just kind of, as I said, put myself into that position, that what I would be doing if I would be coming totally new country, not knowing the language, or like, you know, a whole new place, so many questions and such fear they're coming with. And sometimes I also kind of put myself that my own relatives had to unfortunately escape Turkey from the oppression they have been facing, that I had to raise money for them here to be able to put them on a boat in agency. And there has been a number of occasions that those boats kind of overturned and they lost their family members and things like that. And then we saw the Greek people welcome them in and give them safety, and they shared their bread with them and they supported them. That a number of my relatives right now are actually safe in Greece, also in Germany, with their support of refugee programs and settled them in. I feel like that, you know, they did for my own relatives and my own people there. I should do the same thing for the people coming in here, so those people can feel the same safety and security and feel welcome here. So we always follow your lead and appreciate everything you do for the community. And we are so grateful also what everything Daryl does and Marwa does and Genevieve does for those families. They appreciate it. Now I would like to kind of also switch to our next guest speaker, that he has the first-hand experience with this whole picture, that he was there when actually the US troops were in Afghanistan to support them, and he has seen the full cycle coming through. So we'd like to hear from his perspective and background. But before we go to him, I just want to quickly again share my desktop here, that so far just for tonight we have raised about $736 with our wonderful members that they made donations. Our board member Anthony Bartlett made donation, our member Fred made donations, and we have some anonymous donations also. And we believe that we'll be able to reach our goals for this campaign, that those checks will be able to go to the Interfaith Works and support those families. So just one more time, that if you go to this, this website is rightcenter.org/donate, and it will take you to this page that you can go directly to this link, and that will take you to our page that we created for the Afghan families, that you can make donations directly from our website. So let me, as I said, go to our next guest speaker. Give me 1 second. Okay, so again, we have tonight have the privilege of a special guest speaker with us. Mr. Abdul Sabur Sakazadeh was born in the Herat province of Afghanistan and graduated from high school in the capital city of Kabul. As a 17-year-old, he started working with the US military and Department of State as an office assistant. In 2010, Sabur was promoted to full-time cultural advisor and teaching Afghan culture and counterinsurgency classes to NATO and US soldiers. He was promoted in 2012 and tasked with helping implementing counterinsurgency theory on behalf of USAID. Sabur served in this role until he left the country. While in Afghanistan, Sabur began coursework at the American University of Afghanistan. Mr. Sakazadeh immigrated to the United States in 2014. Within weeks, Sabur was volunteering for Interfaith Work Center for New Americans and was later named the matching grant coordinator for the center. In 2017, Mr. Sabur successfully transitioned the matching grant program to another Interfaith Work staff and began his work as one of the navigator in the state of New York. Sabur was gone through the whole refugee settlement experience and uses his background and experience in his primary role of delivering job opportunities to newly arriving families while helping them meet their most basic needs and successfully resettling in their new country. Once in the United States, Sabur resumed his education and received his associate degree from Onondaga Community College in May 2016. His bachelor's degree in political science and executive public administration from Syracuse University's Maxwell School. In 2010, during his time and service to US military, he was the recipient of the Superior Civilian Service Award, and 2015, he received the Community Service Award from Turkish Cultural Center. So now I would like to invite Mr. Sabur Zakizadeh, and we would like your story able now that please share us your kind of a background. I kind of share with your bio, but please tell yourself about to our guest listeners tonight. So again, welcome to our event for tonight.
Tim, what a blessing it is to be among all of you. So thank you so much for having me in this gathering, and hearing from former colleagues at the IFW and seeing the work you do and larger community of Syracuse. It's just a blessing. Anyone that walks into this 20-minute city will immediately know that we are bound by values, by things that will forever hold us together. So yeah, just a little bit about me. You mentioned it all. I was born in the 1990s in Afghanistan. But if you look at the history of that country or that region or that nation for that matter, is that I'm a child of war. I don't take any pride in saying that, but it's just a harsh reality that I had to go through. I grew up counting bullets and rockets and the number of jets and planes that would cross over my head or our roof. Did not get the proper education. Subjects like engineering or science or astronauts, for that matter, were just totally foreign concepts we did not know. And so, having gone through a civil war, a dictatorship, and then yet this new idea, 2001. This new horizon above, this new city, this new shining city that was supposed to rise, with the help of the international community, with United States on the lead, seeing my sisters starting to go back to school, other peers in our community dancing on the streets, and starting a whole new life with hopes and opportunities and things that we had no idea existed before then. So that's the type of lifestyle I lived, and then I was fortunate enough to be part of a greater cause, international community, humanitarian, supporting our own communities in Afghanistan, and then building a nation from the scratch. And so, yes, we had allies of international community, U.S. forces. So I was part of that larger congregation of states and nations to help build a nation. And then eventually, as you might all heard, stories of SIVs, and I'm no exception, special immigration visas that are granted to the folks and allies of U.S. forces in Afghan civilians that worked with U.S. forces in Afghanistan, that eventually made their way to United States is and then I came in, and here we are, 2014, being a recipient and a beneficiary of IFW services. And then, the rest is history, academic life, professionally, and here we are making friends with folks like Daryl, Marwa, and a whole list of people that, it'll take me forever to start mentioning their names, but such a beautiful community. But I want to stop there for a second, because I hope everyone has their checks open and their credit cards ready, because we need your help. Interfaith is going to need your help. We're going to have to stick together, because this is an important matter, because these are the allies of U.S. forces who stood with the United States in war zones. And so here we are, we have to do our part to support those very families, those individuals who walked out, like Beth mentioned, like Marwa mentioned, that walked out with the clothes under, that one pair of clothes that they had. And so we have to do whatever we can to help support them. And I couldn't be honored more just to be part of the CNY Rise community and just be part of all of you. So thank you. Tim, were you there?
Yes, I'm here. I was just trying to get my pages ready and checking the website there. Thank you again that we have been receiving a number of different donations from our listeners tonight, that we are getting close to $1,000, and hopefully we'll be able to reach to 5,000 and 10,000 from there, because we know it's going to be all going for the right people for the right cause. That as the right center, we are not going to get any part of it, or Interfaith Works will be directly putting into the needs of the families who are going to be needing something as a like we mentioned, the furniture in their house, or shoes for their kids, or the school supplies, and pillows or anything they need, they're gonna putting for that. So coming back to your again, your perspective and your background, a lot of times when we mention to people saying that we would like to help the Afghan families and they're coming as a refugee, a lot of people kind of say, I don't know who are coming, like how are we going to help these people, like who are these people coming to our country? Can you kind of give us a little bit of an insight view of who are coming to the United States from Afghanistan? What is their background and what is their story that directly that you have been involved with that?
Yeah, no, I mean, if I have to pick a model for forced migration of what's happening around the world, Afghanistan will be the ideal case, will be the perfect case for how forced migration takes place. And so a lot of these families that are fleeing Afghanistan, that are running away for their lives, or not because of anything that they did on themselves, but it's because of the violence and war and injustice that are taking place in that part of the region. And you have to look back into the history, right? So 1979, the first 3.7 million of refugees that fled Afghanistan. And what happened during that time? The Soviet invasion. 1989, again, what happened then when the Soviet left Afghanistan? Another wave of forced migration that took place in Afghanistan, that people fled for their life. The third wave of migration that took place was in 2001, the end of the dictatorship of the Taliban, and then the war that unfolded following that, by how many lives that lost their lives, how many homes were burned. And then obviously you can't forget anything more than what just happened less than a little over a month ago in 2021, right? In August of 2021. So this is the model we're talking about of how people are seeking refuge to save their families and their wives and their brothers and their sisters and themselves. So for anyone that questions of where the refugees are coming from, what are the causes that refugees are coming, where they come, Afghanistan is a perfect example, right? Because this is what happens in a nation that people seek refuge to another nation. But these folks that are coming into our shores, into our cities, into our communities, are no different from anyone else in America. These are family-oriented individuals. They have good means for who they are. They want to have beautiful life and a flourishing lives for their children, for their daughters and their sisters. Most of these guys that are peers of mine that have worked with United States Armed Forces, they're bilingual, they're engineers, they're doctors, and they're social workers. And so you got teachers, you got professors from universities. What Beth mentioned a little while ago, I mean, I had the privilege and honor to visit some of these bases literally 3-4 weeks ago. I was at Fort Pickett and I was at Fort Lee. I visited some of these places to go connect with some of these Afghan members and families and connect and hear directly from what was going on with them and who these folks were. So you have, when the nation collapsed, you have Afghan National Army forces that actually took refuge. Senior government officials and their families were evacuated from the country. So you got a whole list of people, including those that had nothing to do with U.S. war, had nothing to do with anything of international community, but simply were running for their lives. And they were lucky enough to jump on the plane. And so you got this mixture of people from multi-disciplines of their professional fields, but also you have those that we consider them the most luckiest individuals to have made it to the plane, and here they are now in our doorsteps. And we have to do whatever we can through the avenues that we have here on Syracuse, through the Catholic Charities, UIO, and Interfaith Works, that we can do whatever we can to help them succeed, to thrive, because if they thrive, we thrive as a community whole. So it's just a larger group of people that come from different fields of what they can offer to us as a community, but vice versa. What can we do to serve them on the fields that they have spent most of their professional careers on, to help them join back that field, to participate back in that field.
And thank you so much again. That maybe for a number of our people that they don't even know kind of a little of a short history of Afghanistan, what they have been through with the Russian invasion, and then the coming along the multiple wars along the way, and the civil war they have to go through. And it's been such a traumatic experience for decades, unfortunately, that has been coming through. And a lot of times when those kind of turmoils, just the civilian innocent people are the ones who are paying for the biggest price. The other people sometimes kind of go different places, but those families are in the middle of the crisis there. I was just talking to one of my colleague at the OCC campus, and you were from the OCC campus, so you're our alumni actually. You should come soon back to our campus and talk to our students over there. I was telling her that, when you're an immigrant, like let's say you want to come to the United States for work or, for student visa or something like that, a lot of times you come with the idea that the grass is green on the other side of the ocean, that you want to kind of build a better life or something. But when you come as a refugee or an asylum seeker, you are coming because the grass under your feet is on fire. You cannot literally stand on it, and you need to be able to get out of there because your life is in danger. And a number of times, unfortunately, people feel like, they're afraid. Who are these people coming in? Are we gonna have our safety in our country? And they sometimes forget that these are the people actually trying to save their lives from the danger, and they would like to build their next chapter of their life, and we should be here for them. So coming to the question also in a similar way, and by the way, if any of our listeners tonight, if you like to ask for a question from, Sabur Sakizadeh, please write on the chat on the YouTube. We are monitoring it regularly, and if there's any question there, we'll be happy to ask our guest speaker tonight. I want to ask right now that since you were there yourself through the whole settlement process, what are the biggest challenges for people, those families first walking into the country? What are they going through? That a lot of people ask, for example, maybe you don't know that what does it mean to be packing everything in a small luggage and go to a different country in the middle of a war or something? What's going to be the biggest challenge for them to be in Syracuse when they first arrive, and maybe first month or 6 months or so, what they're going to be going through?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely materialistic needs, right? Some of the things that Beth mentioned, some of the things that Marwa mentioned, as far as, there are going to be clothing needs, housing supplies need that we have to do to prepare. So we're going to have to ask our community to do a ton of in-kind donations to support these families, and right. So, but also in that mixture, a lot of these families, I always say, when I used to go with Daryl to universities and high schools to talk to a lot of these in academic environments, or even in public, we would just talk. We would look, I mean, for me personally, when I out-migrated from Afghanistan, when I took refuge to the United States, I couldn't put my friends in my backpack. I couldn't put my family members in my backpack. And so all I had was a bunch of clothes and shoes and things that I considered dear to me. And I had to take them across continents to come to the United States. But that whole melting pot, that whole crucible melting pot of integrating into a new culture is just more than materials that we have to donate to families. We have to open our arms. We have to the courage to go and say hello to these strange people that are coming into our shores and establish connections. We have to get to know them better and allow them to accept and self-discover who they are, these individuals are. And so, and I think all of that happens from that engagement of, when I joined the Interfaith community as a professional staff member, it was a different environment than me joining the OCC community and Syracuse University. All of these different fields or perhaps sections of our community had something else that they taught me and how I was supposed to integrate into society as a young individual. But this multi-dimensional aspect of integration into America, it goes beyond just the materialistic. So that you're dealing with issues of isolation, you're dealing with issues of you're marginalized, you're targeted as who they are. A couple of days ago, I was just reading about how there are discriminations taking place against Afghan refugees. Quote unquote, the Proud Boys were passing out brochures and flyers and tags on they could kill any Afghans they see. And this was right around September 11. So So there's issues of isolation. There's issues of spiritual poverty these individuals are dealing with. And so obviously some of these families that they have migrated from a farming land perhaps, and here they are, they're living in the city, then they don't have those livestock of what they originally had, they grew up around. So these are all aspects and needs that these individuals have. Not even talking about their well-being, too many family dependents and their large families that they come in and integrate. Moving away from a very chaotic, perhaps, situation, somewhat anarchic system to a much organized community where you have rule of law, you have police, you have hospitals, and you have all of these things that are functioning in the society. And how do you navigate across these things while simultaneously learning the language, while simultaneously making friends in the neighborhood? So we're going to have to rely on our community members. That is beyond what Interfaith community has to offer, because Interfaith is just a facilitator and a body to facilitate some of these things taking place, because they always look for help, because that's what it takes. There's the reason why Interfaith and other entities of nonprofit that are out there helping, serving our community members, is because it takes more than just one entity to serve a family. It goes beyond what they have to offer. And so for that, I welcome, I encourage, I challenge my community members to stop me at a grocery store, to stop me at a park, to stop another family, not just Afghans, beyond. This is the United Nations. So stop anyone that you think that are a little bit different and connect with them, because you never know, the sky is the limit. I mean, with the evacuation process that I was involved in personally, it was very personal to me, because I was lucky enough to manage to save my own family members, to evacuate them out of Afghanistan, and they're right here with me. And I cannot tell you how much pride I take by introducing them to my friends, because I have gone through that harsh integration model that I had to go through. But when I have a family, I know I could connect them to other resources in the community, and that's just simple. And the same thing applies. If you connect with one Afghan family, if you connect with one refugee family, then that refugee family, if they identify with another family that are just struggling like them, they'll connect you with that, and they can, and from there, the web of connecting, the whole community as a whole gets connected.
Thank you, Abdul. That again, as I mentioned before, you have so much experience and wisdom that you can share on this topic, that, like you said, when you pack your bag, you can pack shoes or clothing, but you cannot pack your family and friends with you. And as being born in Turkey myself, I can feel that to my bones, because my dear family members, or my brothers and family members and friends, are all back there, that I cannot take them with me. It doesn't matter how much of something I have a life over here, still it is missing that piece from me. And those people are going to be their biggest challenge, will be to start a new life with everything they have lived through back there. And so, but at the same time, when I first came to United States, I had people that they were really kind, and they were almost like my second family with me, that they made that transition so easy for me. That I remember when I first came here with a friend, in Colorado, who welcomed me to their home. He searched on the internet, and he found out that I was a Muslim and I wasn't eating pork, so he made food with the seafood for the dinner. And then when I went to my room, he already had a prayer rug direction to Kaaba, saying that I know you need to pray as a Muslim. This is your praying space, and you can do that. He showed that gentleness to me, and I was like, sometimes I don't even see the same gentleness from my own people back from my own country. That he was, so even though he was not a religious person, he didn't really do much of the interact with other people. He made that difference and let me welcome to place. So I believe anybody coming into our Syracuse, coming outside like this, that's more than anything, they will need that welcoming for all their efforts.
Here's another important aspect, right, that we need to keep in mind. A lot of the refugees, the quote unquote, the capital R refugees that are entering into our shores through the UNHCR process, they are going through an extensive, a very detail-oriented cultural orientations before they even put their foot on this land, before their flights are booked. They go through all of the things of expectations versus reality of what to expect, because part of that responsibility of IOM, the International Organization for Migration, and UNHCR, and then the State Department, and one of the 9 refugee resettlement organizations at the national level, part of the responsibility is that they will do as much as they can to help a lot of these families be ready for the culture shock when they come into the United States. And the difference between some of those capital R refugees versus the ones that we have right now living in Fort Pickett and Fort Lee or Fort Bliss in Texas is that a lot of these families have gotten zero trainings on what to expect when they start their life in America. So perhaps one of the other distinctions that they make, I mean, literally, I could list out, there's 5 steps, at least in Fort Pickett, because each base operates differently. At least in Fort Pickett, I know that, there's a 5-step process that these families go through before they're released into IOM, and they're released come into like agencies like Syracuse. They go through an intake process, they go through a biographical database, and they go through a biometric, and then they do 2 levels of medical, and then they will do basically the IOM counseling. Where do you want to go? Where can we send you? Which resettlement agency in the nation is willing to welcome you, and who they are? So there's a slight difference in how these families are coming in. Someone who goes through the proper UNHCR that are brought directly from the refugee camps and God knows where, in Turkey or in Pakistan or in any other nation around the world, versus how these families are brought in through military aircrafts, and they're right now living in bases, and the level of trainings and the integration orientations that they've gotten. But for these families, there's almost zero. So there's another aspect that is very service oriented for a lot of the agencies like Interfaith that have to invest on in making sure that these families integrate as they receive as much training and guidance, or the companionship, or the one-on-one peer-to-peer programs that they can do. So families that are watching this, or please volunteer to sponsor a family, to host them for a particular venue, to host them for a particular matter. If you have something to offer as you're retired, but you're a retired banker, these families need some financial literacy training. If you're a professor, you can teach English classes, please go and volunteer your time. If you're the expert on DMV matters, because we know how complicated DMV is, please volunteer, because they know they were going to need some driving licenses. They're going to need to register their vehicle. So those are all aspects of things that we could contribute, not just monetary, because I hope by the time we end this presentation or this talk, I hope that we get to our goal, because we need we need the money to bring the right staff, the right team together to help support the Afghan families that are coming in.
Thank you again, Abdul Sabr, that I'm still grateful for our listeners that we just keep getting more anonymous donations, that we are now almost about $1,000, and we continue with that. And I also want to quickly ask Beth that she was kind of writing a couple things on the chat about the kind of a profile of the incoming families, that you would like to share also your view about Beth with them and their children and their also language skills and everything. You'd like to kind of elaborate on that, Beth, a little bit.
Sure. The families that we're seeing in the APA program were not, as Sabur said, they were not the families that were working with the military, because they don't have that military status. They were families who fled more out of the burning grass that you talked about, Tim. The first 9 families that we were given at the beginning of this month that we thought were coming were all young. They're in their 20s and their 30s. Some of them were just a couple. Some of them were young 20s, 30s, a couple with 1 or 2 or 3 children. So they're small families. They're young families. And I was asking myself, why is that? And obviously it's because the out migration of people, you had to actually have the physical strength to get through everything that was going on in the city at the time of the collapse, and to get to the airport and to get pulled onto one of those big carriers. I mean, I showed you that picture, that very compelling picture of all the people sitting down on this wide open aircraft carrier almost, it was crazy. So you had to be a fit person or have somebody who was going to bring you, in a wheelbarrow or something to get there. And so that's why I think we're seeing right now the young families and the families with young children, because if you had a lot of children, it was not going to be possible for you to corral that. And I think what we'll see coming out of this is people wanting to reunite with their families. We already found out that the young brother sister that came on Friday, their other sister is still in one of the military bases, and we want to try to get her here so that family can be together here. And I think that we're going to have a lot of work to do for years to come. This is what we find whenever there's a conflict that results in refugees, that we have to be ready to help people reunite with their families, receive their families, find their families, and get them here as well.
Thank you again, Beth, for sharing that insight also. Again, I would like to come back to the topic of the idea that some people kind of a little bit hesitant, like, who are these people coming in? Why are we letting them in? Are really kind of jeopardizing our safety or something like that? And these are the people literally believed in the American dream while they were in Afghanistan, sent their children to the school maybe, or their girls to the school, and they thought that the system was going to be able to continue like that. And unfortunately now they're kind of in danger that they had to deal with this. And I was also in contact with the local law enforcement recently, and they said actually the percentage of the refugees coming into the United States doing violence in the United States is less than 1%. That we do not have any kind of a refugee population that came to the United States, that they are endangering the safety of the local people in where they live. On the contrary, actually, wherever they go, they kind of revitalize the economics of their area. Their, the city they live in always kind of gets more lively with their contribution. They are the highest percentage of business entrepreneurs and restaurant owners and everything where they go in their neighborhoods. And you can kind of look at our neighborhood in Syracuse area that there's so many different organizations, nonprofits, businesses are all opened by those refugees. They came just a decade ago or something. That you can ask the people in Utica that the couple of decades ago, the Bosnian refugees came into Utica, and right now kind of the backbones of that city right now, trying to keep, bringing Utica in a better level right now with all their businesses they built and the neighborhoods they built and everything like that. And I believe the people coming in will come with their richness. Yes, they are coming with only a little luggage and baggage coming in, but they have so much with them that they can share, and they can make Syracuse stronger, a better city for all of us. That I believe that's going to make a big difference. But that's also a big kind of, as I said, challenge for people to be able to see that picture, that who are coming into the Syracuse over here. So we are kind of getting close to end of our program right now. But I would like to kind of give a little bit kind of a final word to our guests, and to anything they would like to share with our guests tonight. That again, I'm grateful that we were able to go above $1,000 for tonight, and I believe those numbers are going to be coming in because not everybody was able to connect tonight directly. But this video will be available on YouTube, so they'll be able to watch this and have more support coming down the road later on. So, any would like kind of a final words that you would like to share, and our other guests also, for closing the program.
Well, thank you again, Tim, and to all of you at CNY Rise. We cannot do this without you. We need each other to do this, as Sabur has said. And I also would like to say that I'm very gratified that negative narrative that has been directed at Muslim people and at immigrants and refugees over the last period of time has not happened in this time. I mean, you don't see the letters in the newspaper. The mayor's office is getting very few calls with those kinds of, oh, why are they bringing those people here? People get it. People have evolved. And this is a very positive thing. And hopefully we can together make this a little bit softer landing for this particular group of refugees than we have seen in the last 10 years.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Beth. That's great to hear that kind of a change in the community also.
Yeah.
Because as a Muslim American myself, that's always a challenge all the time to be able
Right.
to make that first connection with people. Absolutely. And I will now ask Merwa, and do you have any kind of a final words before we close out for tonight events also?
I would like to echo to what Beth said. We won't be able to do this alone. We have to do it all together with the community, with the support of the community. And we are very appreciate to every penny that you donated to support the Afghan people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Merwa, for joining us tonight and everything you do for those families, because I know you pay the attention to every detail. Who comes in, if they have children, what will the children need? You know, if they're coming with an older, you know, maybe a mother or father, what those elderly people would need. I know you pay so much attention. So thank you so much for everything you do for those families. I appreciate it. And I'd like to also ask Genevieve, anything you'd like to share as a final word before we close out tonight?
I think everybody really covered obviously everything really well, but just to echo everybody's sentiments, you know, we're kind of at the beginning of this story, and it's going to continue to be a long story, and we're really not capable of helping to write that without your support. And to speak to Sabor's kind of discussion around building that social capital and building that social connection. This is just the first way to get those initial basic needs met. But yeah, we're going to definitely need a lot of community support to continue. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Genevieve, also joining us and bringing your expertise to our event also. And now finally, I'd like to ask our special guest speaker tonight, what will be your final comments and your feedback for closing the night also up to Sabr?
Well, I want to say three things, if I may.
Absolutely, stage is yours.
The U.S. war in Afghanistan may be over, but the battle for Afghan refugees has just begun. So here we are. I mean, this is going to be more than RISE. This is going to be more than CNY RISE. This is going to be more than Interfaith Works, and this is going to be more than hundreds of other nonprofit resettlement agencies across this nation. And this will define us as a nation of who we are. While I, in my capacity and Interfaith and other organizations, doing as much as they can to help, but we also know that it's just greater than us. So I know for a fact, as what Beth was mentioning a minute ago, 76% of Republicans right now support the reason why we don't get to hear what Beth was talking about, this narrative, this negative narrative, is because 76% of Republicans are supporting the Afghan refugees and their resettlement in the United States. 90% of the Democrats has to do, this goes beyond what Republicanism and Democrats of what we're dealing with right now, because historically what has connected United States to that region, to that Afghanistan that we're talking about, is because of the common values, because of the shared common goals, a shared and a common enemy of humanity. And so my thing and my pledge to all the listeners, so if you can, please donate to this cause, because it's much needed. We're going to help bring another beautiful family to this Syracuse, to this nation, and resettle them just beautifully like we've been doing it for decades. And so thank you for joining us, and thank you for facilitating this CNY RISE. And you know, this is just going to be all of us. So do not hesitate to engage. And if you see someone that looks like Abdul or Sabur, please say hello. And I welcome that. So thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much, brother. And as you know, in our language, we say teshakkur, or we say shukran, for coming and sharing that, you know, your stories and your wisdom with us, because a lot of people need to hear this, that they need to hear the stories coming from the people from the real perspective, from their background. Again, I would like to say thank you to all our guests tonight to make this event happen. And as CNY RISE Center, we always say that we are a service-oriented organization. We would like to reach out to make a difference for people, and that's how the life is going to be good for all of us. Because like from our background, we have the poet Rumi, He's a Sufi poet, and he says that a candle loses nothing by lighting another candle. That if you just go touch another family, just like you say hi to them and just sit down and have a coffee with them. Also support their children to get some school supplies. We are not going to lose anything. We're not going to have like our life status change or anything like that, but we'll make a huge difference, huge contact with other people coming in. So again, we are grateful for all our listeners online coming and joining, and we are grateful for Abdul Sabur and Beth and Marwa and Genevieve and our wonderful friend Furat, who has been on the side making all the technical changes for us. So thank you so much for joining us for tonight for the fundraiser event. I want to mention one more time, you can donate for the CNY Rights Center or for the Afghan campaign. It is rightscenter.org/donate. And that link is going to be open for another couple more weeks, and campaign checks will go directly to Interfaith Works, and hopefully we'll make the difference for those families. So thank you so much. Have a great night, and hope to see our next event, which is going to be our friendship event that we'll be having virtually, and we will be talking about the stopping the Asian hate in this country, and we'll have special guests and keynote speakers. So please keep watching. We'll have more ideas and programs coming. Have a wonderful night, and see you at the next event. Okay, so we just now ended the live streaming of the YouTube